Good morning. Welcome to Frank's School, 30th day of the 7th year, first video. The making of a new and ready-made dream. I left the word resurrection out, which is the proposed name of the movie that I've been talking about. I left that out because I wanted to stress that idea once again, that I think we need to have available a new and ready-made dream, a new way of thinking. I think it was Greta Thunberg, I don't know how to say her Swedish name, that she's probably 15 now, that girl, she said, we need a new way of thinking. Well, yeah, or the equivalent. It does not have to be my movie. I had mentioned or the equivalent, talking about the soundtrack. Same thing with the soundtrack. A composer, could do his own work. It wouldn't have to be musical quotes, but it should have that function, as I had said. So we need such a thing, and as I've argued elsewhere or told elsewhere, that for lack of knowing of other one or a better one, I'm trying. Now, what would this new and ready-made dream offer? Well, ecological morality. That is, people are becoming so quickly, finally, aware of that. Villagism, that people don't think about much. Villagism. I mean, matter of fact, if you Google that, you won't be able to find it. But the idea that it takes a village, degrowth, decentralization, these are ideas that are shown in the movie, in this dream, as working and making people happy, and voluntary simplicity. Those are some of the things that would make it the equivalent, that if it weren't necessarily my movie, that's the job to be done. All right, the soundtrack. I've talked enough about the soundtrack for now, I think, so I put a check mark there. The location, the set. Well, I had that picture up here, and it could be located in tens of thousands of places if it were done right. My first and most lasting favorite location, I think, would be Chiqueiro, an abandoned village in the mountains of Portugal, and Aldeia do Xisto. But it could be done in a city vacant lot. I mean, but in any case, I described this location and how it could be used. Screenplay, working on it. I'm building it from the outside inward, kind of. And I don't dare put a check mark there. But characters, I'm ready to talk about these characters. I've said that there's 9. Well, yeah, they're not all quite equally important, but close. Character number 1, I'll do it in the order that they appear. He's an old man. The first thing you would see of him, ideally, would be his hands, his folded hands over a stick. But we'll have to see how that goes. It could be you'll see his face. I already have an image that would do. And for lack of anyone better, I'm using myself in the casting of this character, or the equivalent. Marion is his name. Although this is a wordless movie, I mean, you would never know his name except maybe in the credits, probably in the credits. If the characters are put roughly in order of appearance, you could figure out that character's name is Marion. His whole name is Elmer Marion Finn. And I have that because he's based on Ilmarinen. There's the Elmer, there's the Marion. And the Finn, well, Ilmarinen is a character in the Finnish, it's called an epic. But it's kind of different. It's a collection of folk epics. It's called the Kalevala. And in Marion, in the character I've created, there's a touch of Vainamoinen there, especially now, because Marion's old. But Vainamoinen, another character in the Finnish epic, is not really the same. And there's also a touch of Odin/Woden about him. That's the business with the scar. I don't know if I said that yet, but he should have a scar over one of his eyes. See, Odin was missing an eye. Now he has both his eyes because he has, in a sense, you could say he's seen the light about his daughter. But in any case, that's his name. Now, he is the ultimate craftsman. the craftsman of the gods in Finnish terms. You know, it doesn't quite work that way. And you might say, well, shouldn't he then be Hephaestus or Hephaestus, however you're going to pronounce it, from the Greek? No, not quite. And another thing about Ilmarinen in the Kalevala, he's always working on this thing called the sampo. Nobody knows exactly what the sampo was, but he's always forging the sampo. I thought a little bit about naming the resurrected village the sampo, in that he pulled it off, he did it, he made the sampo. But I don't know. Scar above the eye, I said about that. Now, he is mute. He doesn't, in the, well, in the movie, they're not mute. Actually, they could be filmed speaking, not him. But you just don't hear any words that they speak. It's not a collection of 9 mute people by any means, and it certainly is not a silent movie. But part of his character is that he is mute. He uses no words. And that's related to the fact that this movie that I imagine would be wordless. Words don't cover it very often. And in Ilmarinen's case, in Marion's case, that is the work. I say in his case, well, he's a character from elsewhere. I created him about 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and we wrote the Song of Marion. Now, I don't know if I get close enough, maybe you can see it. I've shown this before. This is a sort of an epic poem. It's written by high school students and myself, about 30 or so. And in it becomes clear that he is mute. And he also is a character in the Song of Marion's Daughter, which is a fragment. We never finished it. By this time I was working with 8th graders. And the burden of all the stuff that I was supposed to teach otherwise, well, good stuff that I was teaching otherwise, there was no way to free up the time to do that. Plus they were 8th graders. Now in the Song of Marion, by the end he passes. He doesn't exactly die, he passes, which is an allusion to the passing of Arthur, King Arthur. And the one other thing I'll show you now about Marion, this old man, and I hope I stress that he's an old man, is ever since I was like a teenager, I bought my original copy of Idols of the King, and I've kept it. It's almost unreadable because the binding is falling apart, but I kept it because I like the art. I hope you can see that. I like that image on the front because in many ways I think that's as close to what I can imagine of Marion, although he would not have a sword. And one of the things I still want to say about, or the equivalent here, is this movie would not depend on violence. There would be no explosions. There would be no guns pointed at anybody. There would be nothing fast-paced and rapid. And you know, in the modern day, a lot of times you think, especially American movies, how could you possibly make a movie or a television show without explosions and violence and guns and speed and stuff? Well, not easy. It can be done. It's probably been done often elsewhere in the world. I don't know, it has been. All right, bye for now.